On last week's episode of Hanging with Hardcore, we had Johnny Butler on the show. One of Johnny's key messages, which helped him lose 60 kilos in just 18 months, was the idea of extreme ownership. We thought that this was such an important idea that we wanted to dedicate this whole episode to it. Now, we have found personally that a lot of people, they struggle to come to terms with this idea, and that is completely understandable. It really is quite a foreign concept. But for us here at Hardcore, we back extreme ownership 100%. Why? Because extreme ownership is the mindset that leads to a life of empowerment. It pushes you to act and take control of your life rather than just taking it easy and playing the weak victim. Also, as a quick side note, before we jump into the podcast, just like to touch on that you may have noticed so far that all of our podcasts, they've been focusing on mindset and character. This is by design. What we are trying to do is create for you an educational series which will help you go from A to Z. So right now we're still in the A's, the B's and the C's, and we'll eventually get to the more complicated stuff like investing and finances. So for right now, it's crucial. We don't rush the process. We do the work like Giro and we go large. I hope you enjoy this podcast and I hope you find it valuable.
3, 2, 1. We're live, boys. So,
good shit, boys. Love this one.
welcome to the 4th episode of Hanging with Hardcore.
Yay.
And
Yes, sir.
on this week's podcast, we're going to be talking about extreme ownership because we were inspired by our last podcast when we had Johnny Boy on, who was probably the best representation in our immediate circle of extreme ownership. But before we start that, Dylan,
Yeah, mate.
your skull seems a little bigger than usual.
Mate, she grows in proportion to the knowledge I consume. I consume that much knowledge, son. That shit grows by a little square inch every day.
I swear your skull is 2 inches thicker today.
Oh, I'm telling you, mate. You're 100% correct, son.
Honestly, when you brought that concept up, I thought you were joking entirely.
No, I'm being dead serious, man.
That was brilliant.
I'm being dead serious.
So, important podcast by Johnny Boy. You got a big fucking head.
No, but like in all seriousness, I feel like we all gained some knowledge when we had Johnny Boy on. And especially like with the extreme ownership. Like for me personally, it made me reflect on the actions that I was taking and like kind of, I guess, looking myself in the mirror and being like, am I actually doing what I should be doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good one. We got a lot of good feedback about that podcast.
Yeah.
It's really helping a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing that we're trying to do is like the title or like the name of our podcast, Hanging with Hardcore. People are starting to get the concept because we have created all of these ideas and this way of life.
Yeah.
And now people are finally starting to understand what we're about and they can see that they can learn from us. And it's a good feeling, man.
How did you guys feel after that Johnny Boy podcast? Like, how did it affect you guys?
Well, I mean, I felt like a bitch.
I think we all did, man.
So, but yeah, I mean, blessed, because it was a massive kick in the ass again.
Yeah.
Like even did a podcast with Marky, and Marky was saying, like, you boys are going next level again. So he was saying everything he's seen podcasts, he's seen content, he's been saying, and a lot of other people be saying as well, like whether it's physically challenging, where it's everything we're putting out, it's next tier again. So we're going again. And I guess that's what hardcore is about. And it's exciting for people to be able to recognize and see that. And yeah, we're feeling that, as Dylan was saying, we're feeling that whole of, community.
It
And,
made me,
it's awesome.
it made me like question myself. I don't know about you guys, but it made me question myself in like all aspects of life, like not just fitness as well. Like everything I'm doing, I want to ask myself like, am I doing as much as I can? Can I raise my standards more?
Yeah.
I think that's what talking to Johnny Boy and like listening to that podcast has taught me. That's my main takeaway.
Yeah, I feel like that podcast, like we consume a lot of information from like really impressive people online, right? And I feel like that podcast that we created,
Mm.
like we can consume ourselves.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a really cool feeling. to me
Another thing is,
personally.
it's like weird to see, like, because obviously we don't know David Goggins personally. We don't know
Yeah.
like Jocko Willink personally. It's crazy to see that in person, like
Mm.
in Johnny Boy's form, like for him, and you know, like he's doing this shit. You know it,
Yeah.
like the way he's so convincing when he says it.
Yeah, I got a few messages saying that people finally understand it when I've told them about university is not always the best option for them. After listening to that one, they finally made sense to them because they
Yeah.
could see that, how does Johnny do it? If he wants to learn something, he's actually going to go and take action and get a job in that area that needs to improve on,
Yeah,
and you get paid. That's one of our concepts that we always say at Hardcore. From day one with our courses, that's what we do, boys.
Mm.
But I think maybe another key takeaway is we probably didn't actually learn anything. Like, we didn't actually learn new information.
No.
And you're not always supposed to learn new information, but it's about doing those repetitions to align your brain back to that standard.
yeah,
Back to that.
yeah. Because your brain can like drift to other.
Yeah, it drifts to other places.
Yeah.
You focus on other shit.
Yeah,
Questioning, for like, one of the big things for me is questioning that like bias that some people have of like, maybe my mental toughness is not actually where I thought it was.
Oh, that's a good one.
So like now I'm physically putting myself in situations again to like just fuck my shit up.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to ever, I don't want to ever take that mental toughness for granted.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, we did a decent amount of work in the last couple of years to really build that shit. I don't want to now, because I've left the job, I don't want to get comfortable with it.
I've been noticing, especially with you, Doc, like you're just running a lot more. You're training harder.
Yeah.
And I think like you're putting it out there and you're holding yourself more accountable for that because
Yeah.
you're putting it out there.
The training's an easy one for people to be able to visualize and see because it's something they can relate to.
Yeah.
What people don't see is like, I'm up earlier now. I'm on the computer longer. Reading more. I feel like I'm putting more effort into the deets as well.
Yeah.
Like I'm taking everything to the next standard. Personally, is what I'm really trying to do and what I feel like I am doing. So
Yeah, like making these. It's only been 3 podcasts, and this will be the 4th. Like the one about standards, how you said like to build confidence, just make yourself these small promises and then execute on those small promises. So like one thing, like I would like wake up in the morning, but I would lie in bed for 5 minutes, and now I'm like consciously making that effort. As soon as it goes off, I'm up.
Yeah.
And like that's the first win of the day. And since doing that, I just feel like I've got this momentum going, and I can just achieve whatever I want throughout the day.
Yeah.
And it just feels normal.
I don't know. Like, in my mindset, like, I honestly think, obviously, it's tough, like Johnny Boy as well, but staying in 5 minutes, it's not acceptable, like for who we want to be. We want to hit a certain level. It's acceptable for some people, but long term, like, we can't do that stuff.
Yeah.
Everything matters. Every little detail matters.
yeah, as hardcore grows, as we grow, we're going to get continuously getting busier. So just from that point of view, like, we don't have an extra 5 minutes to be able to spare. So if you're thinking operationally, like, it's a massive opportunity cost right there.
I think a crazy takeaway that like I noticed during Johnny Boy's podcast was like he's so meticulous with his time, and I feel like when you hear it from someone else, it makes you question how you are with your time. And like he like splits up his day every 15 minutes. Like he's accountable for every 15 minutes of his day. That's insane.
We used to do that shit.
Yeah. It's like it's fundamentals.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that podcast was massive because how we got to where we are now is we did all of that shit. We did all of that shit. And now it's not that we've now taken it for granted or we've gone too far off the downside where you think we're some fucking hotshot and too successful. It's like we did so much work. We're now taking a little bit of a step back to now.
Do you guys still do that? Like,
rest.
take every minute, like track every minute of the day?
I don't personally do that.
Yeah,
But you guys used to do that? Because I've never personally done that.
I'll definitely at like working at Nando's when you're pumping out 70 hours.
When you're
You gotta be
working,
structured.
How is that? How is that like doing that? Did you feel like it helped a lot doing that?
Absolutely. It absolutely did help. I'll speak about, there's only one negative I see is now, even though like I'm not doing it as well as I should be, I know that I'm not doing as well as I should be, so I fucking hate myself for it. I'm like, God damn it. So every time I'm lying in bed, like an extra minute, I'm like, shit, that's a waste of time.
Yeah.
That's opportunity cost, et cetera, et cetera. Now, maybe that's not necessarily negative, but it's like, maybe it is actually a positive because it allows me to stay accountable to that. But when you're in, especially that first phase of grinding, where you need to work that 70 hours a week at your normal job, and then, you know, your minimum of 30 hours just consuming information.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we always preach, you know, life is a marathon, right? But then, like, during that marathon, you got to have short periods of sprinting.
Yeah.
And, like, those short periods of sprinting, you got to be meticulous with everything because you're achieving a specific goal within a specific time frame. So to achieve that, you need to be accountable for everything. You got to, I guess, ties into like what we're talking about now, which is extreme ownership. You got to take extreme ownership about everything. But like throughout your life, you should be taking extreme ownership. But then like during those sprints, it matters the most because you're achieving something. You're trying to get to a certain thing. Like you're trying to achieve a certain goal.
So today's podcast is obviously about extreme ownership.
Yeah.
Do you want to define it, or do we going to go around?
I can just chuck the video on straight away, and then we'll summarize after the video.
So we got a video. Samo, do you want to explain who the video is by?
Yeah. So the video is by a retired Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink, and he is a beast. He made a book with another Marine,
Leif
Babbin, which is called Extreme Ownership. And he talks about the principles of extreme ownership, and we're just going to watch a video now describing what his thought process is about that.
Let's go, boys.
One of my direct subordinates, one of my guys that worked for me, he would call me up or pull me aside with some major problem, some issue that was going on, and he'd say, "Boss, we got this and that and the other thing," and I'd look at him and I'd say, "Good." And finally one day he was telling me about some issue that he was having, some problem, and he said, "I already know what you're going to say." And I said, "Well, what am I going to say?" He said, "You're going to say good." He said, "That's what you always say. When something is wrong and going bad, you always just look at me and say good." And I said, "Well, yeah, when things are going bad, there's going to be some good that's going to come from it. Didn't get the new high-speed gear we wanted? Good. Didn't get promoted? Good. More time to get better. Oh, mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on another one. Didn't get funded. Didn't get the job you wanted. Got injured. Sprained my ankle. Got tapped out? Good. Got beat? Good. You learned. Unexpected problems? Good. We have the opportunity to figure out a solution. That's it. When things are going bad, don't get all bummed out, don't get startled, don't get frustrated. If you can say the word good, guess what? It means you're still alive. It means you're still breathing. And if you're still breathing, well, now you still got some fight left in you. So get up, dust off, reload, recalibrate, re-engage, and go out on the attack.
Let's go, boys.
God damn, that pumps me up
Let's
every time,
go,
boys.
Jocko Willink, man.
All right. So, as you can tell from that snippet, he is an extreme dude.
Yeah.
And in the military, he was a leader, which is why he got those experiences to write the book, to write the principles about extreme ownership. And I don't think anyone before him really like formalized it the way he did.
No.
I think that usually, like, a lot of the stories were stories. They were like personal achievements, like when it comes from that kind of scenario. But to be able to really articulate it the way he did,
Yeah.
a lot of it was just like in kind of analogies, like read between the lines kind of thing.
Yeah. Like he leans into problems. Like he wants problems.
Mm.
And a lot of people lean away from problems because, you know, it's a path of least resistance, right? But the problem with that is that it gets you literally nowhere. Yeah.
So extreme ownership is taking responsibility for the problems that happen around you.
Yeah.
To summarize.
Yeah.
What can you do about it now?
Exactly.
You may not have caused that problem, but now it's a part of your life. So now it is now your problem. So what can we do to take action to fix that problem?
I mean, even in the book, Jocko talks about like how he led the army into battle, and then there was problems along the way that wasn't caused by him per se. It was caused by a ton of people.
Oh yeah.
So if he sits there blaming everyone, and then they're not going to get anything done, especially in that situation.
The very first story, you guys remember it from the book?
No, I can't remember it.
So the very first story he talks about is, unfortunately, there was team on team, or there was, country on country, actually were involved in some miscommunication where they actually killed one of their own, because, technically, they had technological problems, right? The radios broke or something like that. But unfortunately, they were working with, I believe, the Afghans as well. Was it?
I think it was in
Yeah,
Iraq.
they had some Afghan allies, I think.
Yeah, Afghan allies who, and
It was
there
in
was some
Ramadi, right?
translation problems as well. And unfortunately, two teams who were working alongside actually fired upon each other, and a few people died and got hurt. And that's the story that Jocko starts the book off with, to really highlight this principle of he can quite easily sit there and say, hey, and it's justified as well. I had technological problems, couldn't translate from the people I was working with. I couldn't understand them. I didn't know what was going on. He has every almost right to be able to blame anything around him, but he doesn't. He takes responsibility of that, and he moves essentially on and learns how to deal with the fucking problem.
Yeah.
Because the world's going to be you go.
Oh, sorry. And I was going to say, like, and he said it as well, himself as well, that like it hurt his ego to do that.
Yeah.
That's something that he battled with, like to come out and say it's my fault. It hurt his ego, but in the long run, it actually came back and helped him because everyone trusted him more, and his leaders even, like, they appreciated that. They trusted him more as well.
Absolutely.
Because there's kind of two scenarios that you can take, like a course of action. You can either take extreme ownership, be proactive about it, and actually go out there and try and fix it. Or you can have the victim mentality. You're like, oh, it's not my problem, or it's them, and you start blaming others and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Then what happens when you do that? Everything just starts going downhill in your life, and then more problems start coming, and that's how life is. Life is just a whole heap of problems, and we need to just sort them out.
Yeah.
Life literally is a struggle. Life is a struggle. It's very, very fucking simple. Everyone in the world, someone's problems are better, harder than someone else's, but everyone has their struggles. And if everyone let their struggles just get to them, that's that victim mentality seeping in. Right? You need to take extreme ownership of those struggles, of those problems, be a better person, and fucking solve them.
I think we need to preface extreme ownership. It's extreme ownership, right? It's hardcore. It is not.
Nice.
It's not normal. You've got to be not normal to achieve whatever you want to achieve. Like you've got to do extreme stuff and be in an extreme way to follow these principles. Like, it's not meant to be easy.
Yeah. The way I see it in my head to visualize it is like a scale. You can have victim mentality on the left.
Yeah.
Right. Then somewhere in the middle, you can take ownership, or you can take extreme ownership here on the right. Then you got to ask yourself, if I choose out of those three different scenarios, which one's actually going to result in my life, being better? You can see straight away. If you just go and just knuckle down and just say, hey, it's not my problem, but I'm going to fix this shit. And I'm going to show up and be the leader and be like, boys, I'm going to solve this shit. If you do that, your life just results in so much more success, so much more happiness.
Yeah. I hear this silly thing all the time of like, yeah, but this happened to me, or, but it wasn't my fault, or any example you can possibly think of, right? And then Jocko says in the video, good, but what do you think is going to happen if you just feel sorry for yourself? Explain to me how you're going to get out of that struggle, how you're going to get out of that problem by feeling sorry for yourself and not doing anything.
Yeah.
Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get cracking. Fix the problem.
It's almost
Fix
like
the problem.
Like in that video, it's almost like Jocko sees the world without any emotions. Like he doesn't involve a lot of emotions whenever it comes to his work, because I feel like with Jocko and extreme ownership, he relates a lot to his military life and his professional life. Like he consults with private companies after he retired from the military, and he, as a leader, like what he's got to say is so valuable to a company.
Yeah.
Right, because he's led people in life or death situations. Right.
Mm.
So when you come from that environment and when he says good, it's like, yeah, take your emotions out of it.
Yeah.
Because this is an extreme thing you must do.
Yeah,
And like if you bring your emotions into it, then you're not thinking right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He talks about being like almost out of body and being objective.
Yeah.
Like
really
Yeah,
objective.
he uses that as an experience, and he says that was one of the like things that kind of separated him, made him so damn good, is he was able to separate himself. Look objectively at a very stressful situation. You know, when there's bullets flying and everyone's losing their damn mind. He had the ability to separate himself and be objective. And literally, he said it was like out of body, like he was looking down on the situation himself and be able to understand where all the moving parts are, to be able to have the leadership and show extreme ownership of the situation and take responsibility and set the plan into action.
This book is so good as well because it's giving us perspective. He's talking about this crazy shit, like shooting guns, people dying, wars. Then if we focus on that and think about how hard that is, and he's taking extreme ownership of that.
Yeah.
When we come back to bloody McDonald's, working at McDonald's, manager at Nando's and all of that stuff, in the workplace, doing a standard office job. Dude, it's easy shit.
Yeah.
It's easy.
And it's at every level as well.
That's a good point, because like a lot of people could be like, oh yeah, it's not I'm not the leader, so I don't have to take extreme ownership. But at any level, like start now.
Yeah.
Just take the ownership now.
Yeah. One thing about leadership, and the best leaders I know in my life were never the ones who had the title.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
So the ones who were the manager, or the ones who were the captain, the ones who were anything like that, they were never the best leaders in my life. They were never the ones that actually showed true leadership. They may have got themselves into those positions by taking ownership and working really hard, yes, but they didn't start in those positions. That's it's like a byproduct, eventually getting there. But yeah, the title does not mean you have leadership. Just because you're an employee doesn't mean you can't show extreme ownership and leadership and responsibility and all these things.
I think there's a difference between managing people and leading people, right? So with extreme ownership, you can use it in your professional life and also your personal life. Like in your personal life, it allows you to take control of your life.
Yeah.
Versus if you're like a victim, like you have that mentality and everything is not your fault, people are doing things that make your life hard and miserable, you're just disempowering yourself and you're losing control. Like you're not aware that you're losing control.
This is so relevant to right now, going through COVID and all of that. You can see all of the bloody victims out there.
Yeah.
Victim mentality. They're weak people. And it's a tough time and all of that, and people going through, it's generalizing here. But you can see it.
Yeah. There are, like, one thing we'll never do is, like, ignore the fact that there are tough times. Dude, some shit sucks.
Good.
It's really, really bad. Yeah.
Good.
But it gives you the opportunity to show extreme ownership.
Yeah.
Like,
Good.
And we'll touch in on its emotion less, right? There's two ways to interpret that word. You can say, yeah, he's using no emotion, so he's taking his emotions out of it, which is one thing. But it's actually being very emotional because you're thinking about how it will hurt your emotions in the long term. If you take extreme ownership, it won't hurt your emotions. If if you just go about it and just have the victim, it will hurt your emotions.
Yeah, that little, if anyone ever fucked up or made a mistake and they got that little guilty feeling, like, fuck, man. It's that little niggle at the back of their
Yeah.
brain. You know, that
Yeah.
little one?
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about.
Have you
right
ever
there.
had those experiences for yourself, like where you had that guilty feeling inside you?
Oh,
Like when you don't do something and you feel like guilty about it.
I had so many. Like,
I still have it. Like if I don't do anything that I write down on my whiteboard,
yeah.
if I don't do that, then I'm like, fuck.
Like if
feel
I
like-
if I miss like one day of dates, I'm just like, fuck. I let the boys down, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we start talking about how to actually identify if you have a victim mentality.
Mm.
So then
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
start to talk about later how to
I
combat
actually
that.
wanted to touch on that a bit,
Yeah.
use my own personal experience.
Mm.
So I used to be very, I used to be stuck. I feel like I was stuck in a bit of a victim mentality, like always like. I feel like that came from like I was just helpless. Like, and they talk about this in the book Essentialism. Like I felt like I was helpless. I was letting people dictate my life.
Yeah.
I didn't take ownership of anything in my own life. Everything in my life was being dictated. Everyone was telling me what to do this, do that. And I was like, oh, I was in this victim mentality, like constant loop. I was just like, oh, you know what? I can't, I was like helpless. And then, yeah. And then once I learned about extreme ownership, which is, I'm still like, it's still something I'm like doing in my life right now. I'm still like, trying to take extreme ownership of everything in my life right now. And, yeah, I felt like with the victim mentality thing, like one thing that I was struggling to do was prioritize the things in my life. Prioritize. So he talks about that in Essentialism. Like Greg McCowan talks about like prioritize things in your life, otherwise other people will prioritize for you.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
yeah. I think the quote is, or the thing he says is, make decisions for yourself or someone else will make decisions for you.
Yeah.
But like, how did you identify like you were being a victim?
And what are the examples of like the things? Like what priorities were you not focusing on?
Just everything in my life. Like literally everything in my life, I would blame it on other people. So like when it came to studies or, when it came to work, like Nando's, for example, I'll go to work and I'll be like, oh, it's not my fault. It's not fucking the other person's fault. Or I'll go to school and I'll be like, oh, it's not my fault. It's my parents' fault for, not
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
this.
It
And
creates
they
like a
probably,
domino effect.
they
of
probably did
everything.
have some fault, but like in the end, it's my fault. Like I'm not the one who's studying right now.
Did you catch yourself one day? You were just like, what am I doing?
I think it came in like strong when I read Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it came in strong
Makes you
then.
confront yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
for sure.
It came in really strong then, around that time. And I think that time I was just having a lot of arguments with my family, like
Yeah.
my siblings and my parents, and being like, oh, you did this to me.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's like, I realized like it's my fault. It's my life. And even Johnny Boy talks about this in his life. And he definitely had it way harder than I did. Way harder than I did. But, it's something that everyone I think has to take on eventually to move up in life.
So for you, you had that moment where you just thought about what you were doing and you also
Yeah.
read the book. That was your
Yeah.
trigger, right?
Yeah, the book, Extreme Ownership definitely was my trigger.
Like we all got that recommendation from you. Like how did you stumble upon that book?
How did I stumble upon? Oh, I can't even remember, man.
Naval.
I don't know. It must have been. I think it was probably Tim Ferriss.
Oh, okay.
Tim
Because
Ferriss.
he talks about it in
it
Tools
was
of
Joe
Titans.
Rogan again.
Joe
Rogan. Joe Rogan again.
Joe Rogan's a king. That's
Joe
where I
Rogan,
saw it
Josh.
first.
No, but like, did you feel like you had those qualities in you, or you were aware of, as a manager of Nando's, like you would have felt something, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I knew this concept before the
Yeah.
book. Like, I didn't have the term for it, extreme ownership, but I knew that, hey, if I told the people that I know, I said it in staff meetings before, I'm like, hey, if I know it's not your fault, but if everybody says it's not my fault, then it just turns into a massive problem for everybody. So if someone messes up the morning shift, and if the lunchtime shift comes in and they're like, oh, it's my fault, they stuffed me up, now the lunch shift is stuffed up for the dinner shift. So it needs that person to come in at lunch and be like, hey, man, that wasn't, maybe something happened. I like to switch my mindset to start to say, you know, maybe the person who was running the morning shift, something really terrible happened in their life that's holding them back from reaching their potential today. And they didn't have the ability to rock up to game day today. So you know what? I'm going to help them because I love them. You know, I'm going to do double the amount of work, and I'm going to set, you know, I'm not going to even talk. I'm not going to bitch about, oh, you know, bloody Olivia or whatever messed up the morning shift. That's not adding no value to the world. I'm going to, you know, I'm going to care about these people, and I'm going to love them. And I'm going to do the best I can, communicate the best I can, and really take action. And then, you know, by the time a 6 o'clock shift comes around, like I remember every time my 6 o'clock shift ended, I'm like, boys, you got no work to do, boys. She's all done, boys. She's all done. I'm glad we used to literally clean the whole entire shop before 6 o'clock, between 3 and 4 p.m. No customers. We'll clean the whole shop like it's the end of the day, and we'll glad wrap every inch. We glad wrapped every inch of the store. So the boy,
dude, he should just come in and not be able to make a mess.
Yeah.
Like, not actually possible to make a mess because you glad wrap it that well.
Yeah. So then you'll be working. You don't need to clean up anything. You just unwrap the motherfucker.
So like at the end of the day, it would look like a forensics scene.
Literally.
Like you can't get it dirty at all.
Yeah.
You just literally, like at 9:30, 10 o'clock when we're wrapping up, you just pick up the glad wrap, put it in the bin. Have a good night, boys.
And if you imagine this, right, every other store, their standards were that they finish closing. So the store closes, no more customers after 10. 11 o'clock, they have to be out the door. That's the standard. So it's 1 hour. What we did is we said our standard is 10:05. We got 5 minutes. As soon as last customer goes, 5 minutes, you're out the door. Right? Now think about that. It's practically saving an hour of labor cost. Multiply that by 6 people. That's like $120 of labor that you added to the bottom line every day for that business.
Just monstrous. There are days where we left, like there's a lot of days actually, we left at 10:01.
Yeah. It's doable. Everybody says it's not doable.
No one believed that it was possible.
So like as a leader, like you were appointed, your title was manager, but then you were the leader.
Yeah.
Right. And like I wasn't even working with you guys at Nando's, but I knew
You know all the stories.
I know
bro.
the stories, right?
Yeah.
Because you were such a good leader and you built that culture.
Yeah. But it was a long journey, man. Like it was at the beginning, like it took me a whole year to learn this shit, to gain the respect of people. It was so many of these little things, and like we need to sell it to the audience that, hey, extreme ownership, it's like a major pillar of our life. It's major, and it's so super important. It's everything that we do, it comes from extreme ownership. But it at the end of the day, it's one of many things. You know, you can't just say, hey, I'm going to have extreme ownership and the rest of my life's going to be easy. There's going to be more podcasts down the line, which we're going to talk about, you know, but even for me, it took a whole year of trial and error research to learn how to do that.
One thing I
It's really
respected
hard.
about how you guys did that is like, despite how
He. Let's not say how he.
you helped as well, Doc. I know
didn't
you
do
helped
shit.
as well.
I
I
was
saw you.
spastic. It was him.
No, but one thing I respected was that even despite how people would treat you, like I know staff would come in and be like, oh, you know, fuck this day, fuck this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Despite how people would treat you, you still rocked up and you still did the same thing every day.
No one knew what was going on in my personal life. Every single day I rocked up holding back tears because I was working so hard and I was getting hurt mentally as well. So physically my body was in pain. I was working so many hours that my bones would ache. I remember some Friday nights I was working so many hours that I just wished I could just say to everybody I'm going. But every single day I would rock up to a shift early, 1 hour. I would leave 1 hour late to every single shift. And, you know, like people still would, you know, I could hear them talk behind my back and at times. It was very painful, but every day I just knew, if I be the man and I show up, eventually I will win. And that's what happened.
And I think the important thing to like really grasp from that is you're doing it not to prove, you're doing it for yourself. Like you're in the position now because you had that up mentality back then.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like you took complete ownership of the situation and you did it for the right reasons. You did it for yourself.
Yeah, and you can't get angry at
That's a good
those
point.
people. Like, it's actually so sad.
Exactly. That is something we've come across.
Where are they now? they might be listening to this, and they need to look at themselves in the mirror and realize they're not living their life right. They were just gossiping and all that shit. They're stuck there, and it's sad. There's people in their 40s and 50s stuck there. You know? And they think they're the top shit because they're the top of this little tiny game down here. Nothing wrong about the game. You have to start there. Everybody starts from the bottom. But they think, oh, I got all this status. Look at me. I'm the fucking manager now.
Yeah.
Dude,
I'm the
you
coolest
suck.
person in Nando's. Think about that.
Huh?
I'm the coolest person in Nando's.
Yeah, I know. They brainwash themselves. They're not rational.
If you're happy with just being the manager there, then you don't get the fucking game. If you understand.
You understand, boys.
So, like, as a leader, you would have seen, like, a lot of victim mentality, like, within your team, right?
Yeah.
Like, how would you have, like, diffused it? Would you, like, talk to them in person, like, one-on-one? Or would you get them together and talk to them? Like,
A
what
bit
would
of
you-
everything, man. A bit of everything. Just, it's all communication. It's just education. Showing why it's important. Just explaining why. Because I feel like a lot of leaders, they actually think that everybody has the same knowledge as them. And they can see with the same eyes as them. But they can't.
And then, so when you do that, do people fight back? Like, obviously, first instinct will be to fight back.
A lot of people fight back.
So then, how do you still keep explaining like further?
Yeah, it's repetitions, different points of view, different angles.
Man, I had one of the best things I think you did back then. Obviously, only past tense I can say this is amazing, but yeah, it was leading by example.
That's
When
a nice one.
When he speaks about coming in an hour before and leaving an hour after, it's not a joke. It's not happened now and then. It was every fucking time. Every time he was there. You want to see him on shift. It's not even a competition.
He's
You
always
can't-
Even if I started learning and getting better, it's not a competition. There used to be a guy, no joke, who we thought was the god. It's not even a competition against him.
Yeah, it's like hourly output. Like how much are you actually doing per hour in front of everybody? I would make sure that there's never a minute that someone else could see of me that they outperform me in that minute. It's not possible.
It didn't exist.
So, like, going back to how you identified either like a victim mentality or extreme ownership, like you had the qualities of extreme ownership without even knowing it. But was there ever a moment where you realized, oh, this is extreme ownership? Or did that come after reading the book?
Yeah, it came from after reading the book and listening to it, the podcast and stuff. But it just made normal sense to me.
Yeah.
Like it was just
Was that like
very
your
logical.
default? Like you were always like, oh, I'm just going to take responsibility of my actions. Like from the
not
start.
not always. It was only until I became a manager. Then I could start to see
Mm.
all the problems like
Right.
forming. I'm like, oh fuck, that's how all of these little things add up to that at the end of the day. Damn, man. We gotta fix this shit.
Goddamn.
So like maybe like if you're not at the leadership role, you
Yeah, it's
kind of
harder
don't
to see.
understand what the leader goes through.
Oh,
So
it's
maybe
tough.
when you get into that role or you see some of those responsibilities, then you kind of start getting a bigger picture
Yeah.
and realizing, oh shit,
Well, you can't see.
maybe
you
I
can't
am
see
the
whole
problem.
picture.
Yeah,
You don't know the numbers. You don't know the little things.
Yeah.
Like it's incredibly difficult, like to be able to actually see the entire picture. But if you're an employee out there, just because you're not the manager doesn't mean you can't go ask them. Like, hey, let me in, man. Show me
Yeah.
some stuff. And a lot of
Yeah.
people there are also going to be people out there, unfortunately, that just are feared because they fear of you taking their job and stuff like that. So they may have some, angst against you. But just, outwork them. People, you will win. It's very, very simple. You will outwork them and you will eventually because someone will recognize the fact. And you can't lose.
That's a good point. Like to just touch on it again. That usually, if your manager is intelligent, they are, and they're humble and they have no ego. They are actually waiting for someone to say to them, "Hey, I want to level up.
Yeah.
What do I need to do to level up?" And that's if you're a part of this audience and you want to be like part of our community hardcore head start, you have to do that. Like the manager role, the pay was like $1 an hour extra. It's not worth it. It doesn't make sense, but it is worth it because the amount of knowledge that we get, the skills that we acquire from doing that role. You have to do it, man. It's so important.
The perspective I only did it for a short time and I was terrible at it, but the perspective I was able to gauge was what we're talking about right now. It really opened the eyes. I'm like, ooh, sheesh, boys. I've been not looking at this whole picture correctly.
Mm.
not understanding everything.
Yeah. So I guess like with coming back to how to identify it, I think maybe you start reflecting on your life and your past actions, or like
Yeah.
any interactions that you had with people,
Mm.
and realize, look at it from a third person. Like, what happened? What did I do
Yeah.
that could have led to a certain outcome? And like what could they have been going through?
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're like young. Like,
Yeah.
don't make excuses. Just
Yeah.
say, like, what could I have done?
And the thing is, it's always easy in hindsight, right? Like in the moment, it's harder to control your emotions in the
Yeah.
moment. But in hindsight, you just like learn what you did in the past so that you don't do it in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think another thing is like in the moment, if you are faced with a problem, like instead of being like, oh, I can't do anything about it, just ask yourself, how can I fix this problem?
Mm.
Like, what can I do about the situation right now? Be a little optimistic and just try to figure it out.
So in G's example of his personal life when he was using before, like one of the things that you would recognize is he was making excuses,
Yeah.
right? That's a major sign of him not of victim mentality, and you see a lot of people when something bad happens to them, they feel sorry for themselves. That's a massive sign of victim mentality, right?
I think another thing I did was like I always used to look for sympathy. Like I always used to ask for sympathy. So I think that's a lot of victims do that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask for sympathy. Don't explain yourself. Just fucking do what you got to do.
You didn't do anything to deserve
Yeah,
sympathy in the
It's
first
not
place.
warranted.
exactly. You don't need to explain your problems to people. Just
Mm.
fucking do what you got to do. Fix your problems.
It sounds like you were actually feeling like somewhat depressed, like of a depressed state of mind.
I think I was, yeah.
Thinking that, just,
Yeah.
I was like, this. It's very recognizable, like the traits.
And like taking that extreme ownership, like if we were to give people like context, why it's important to identify when you're being a victim or acting like a victim. Like our journey, like if we were to define what our journey is, it's all, we're on this journey of financial freedom, but also to develop as human beings, right? To become the best version of ourselves as human beings.
I've actually put a sentence to this. If that's
Go
all right.
ahead.
All right.
Go
So
ahead.
the journey itself is defined as personal development and does not mean you're going to become entrepreneur of the year, business person of the year, financial freedom, wisdom guru, etc., etc. It simply means you are trying to become the best version of yourself all the time and forever.
Yeah.
That's what the journey is.
Yeah. And the way extreme ownership fits into that is it's a tool that allows you to get better. It allows you to continue on that journey.
Yeah, I love the word tool there, man.
Yeah, it is a tool. At the end of the day, it's principles.
That's
You
what we
just follow
do,
these
right?
principles. Yeah,
That's what we do.
Yeah.
We have the toolbox now.
Yeah.
And slowly we've been accumulating a spanner, a hammer, every little tool. We've been accumulating things. We've got the toolbox now. From
Yeah.
sweat and tears and pain. We got this. We got the goddamn toolbox.
and
now
like
we're
the
just trying to-
importance of that toolbox analogy is like when we first started on this journey now of like whatever we're doing, financial freedom, getting better. We didn't start off by learning about finance.
Mm.
We learned about ourselves
Character,
first. We learned about ourselves, our emotions, our mindset, where we are at our current state, where we need to be in order to start learning about finance.
Yeah.
Because once you build that platform, then finance becomes easy as fuck.
Oh yeah.
You have to create the person who is financially free before you can become financially
Yeah.
free.
Yeah. And extreme ownership is that tool that will get you there.
So
It'll get you there faster.
just to actually explain what we're talking about to the audience, if they haven't gathered yet, this is actually what we're doing. We have personally in our own lives, in our own little bubble, gone through all of these life lessons, and we have this structure. We are trying to deliver like a free course in podcast format for the audience to help scale out what we have learned. And that's why it's by design that everything we've spoken about so far in all of these podcasts is about character development.
Hardcore Head Start is a lifestyle. It's the way we live life. And how we got to here is how we're going to present the information to you guys. Which is awesome.
Yeah. And just touching on the journey again, I just like to visualize it for the audience, how we see the world. We're not saying it's 100% correct, but we think you want to progress. The end goal is to, be the best human, do as much good as you can in this life. And the journey is about, like the way we see it is you want to progress in all areas of life, but it's a balance. And the balance doesn't mean you go 50-50-50 on everything. The balance means, for us personally, it's an 80-20 balance. It's 20% into this books and all of that at the beginning. We talk about money and investing and all of that a lot. Why at the beginning? Because based on compound investing, if you can get your money in the game, start compounding, you start getting $100,000. If you've got $100,000 invested of pure assets, that will start to generate 20% returns for you. 20% is $20,000 coming in every single year by doing absolutely nothing. In Australia, that means if you're, living below your means and all of that and not going wild, that can cover your whole year's expenses. Now, when you do that and get that $100,000 of assets, you gain back all of your time really quickly. We've all done it in this room. Chris is, 24? You just turned
23.
23. Doc just turned 24, right?
Yeah.
And me and Sam are slightly older. But we're all before the age of 30. Now what do we have? We have so much more time, so much more headspace to go even harder on the knowledge. And then we get exponential knowledge gains on the tail end of that. And then it's like kind of flipped. So it's money first, 80% money, 20% knowledge. Then we got the money, then it's flipped the other way. 20% money, 80% knowledge.
Let's not sugarcoat it. Money is the most important thing at the start of the journey.
For sure. Yeah. Money will get you the time, right?
All the rappers are right. Get the money.
If time is the greatest commodity, the most important asset ever, you need to think, how am I going to get more time?
Yeah.
The world spins, whether it's right or wrong, with money. It's how the world uses it.
And the thing is, okay, let's say you're working. You don't necessarily need to quit your job if you're enjoying it, but it'll give you choice. Like in this life, you want to have as many choices as you possibly can, because you are entitled to it. If you work for it, you are entitled to it, right?
Yeah. The matter of the fact is that if you are in a position where you're doing a job that you love, like you really, really, really love it, then you're not actually thinking about money at all, because you're actually doing what you would already do regardless of the money. We're talking to the people who really, A, hate what they're doing, or are lying to themselves and telling them they like what they're doing, which is a major category.
Yeah. So, for example, for me, we all had this 3 to 5 year plan of focusing on the money first and leaving the job so we can focus on knowledge and hardcore head start building our platform, right? For me, personally, I hate working a 9 to 5. I don't see myself in that format or in that standard. So every single day when I was going to work, it was literal hell for me. For me, it was, right? I didn't act like a victim because I knew this was the plan. I was just executing the plan. I didn't get emotional, all right? I didn't get attached to my role because I knew this was temporary. And it was tempting because you have a constant paycheck coming in, which is addictive. Now you can live, I was actually earning quite a bit of money. Now you can live a more comfortable life, but you can easily stray away from your main goal, right? So you stay focused, have a plan, take ownership. Don't be the victim, because every fucking day sucked, man. Every day sucked for me.
Give a man a constant paycheck and, well, let's just say, give a man a constant paycheck and he'll forget about his dreams.
Yeah. Like every day sucked. And I don't know, for you guys, it's the same as well.
Dude, I used to get literal anxiety.
Yeah. Like when I woke up at 5 a.m. every single morning, I'm like, fuck, I got to sit in traffic for an hour, go to work, stay there for 12 hours, come back home, and then I still got to fucking work on my shit. I want to work on my shit, but I've got to do this first. Yeah. Like, don't be a victim, guys. Like, empower yourself.
That was fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Your story's good when it comes to that side, like all of it, obviously, but that specific part, like you're earning what people dream of earning.
I was earning like almost 6 figures. I quit that.
That's
Because-
a massive number for a lot of people. They're like, dude, I wish I could just earn 6 figures. Like, that's the dream.
Yeah.
That was your dream back in the day. It was less than that.
Oh yeah. My dream back in the day was I want to get an aerospace degree, work at a company and make 80 grand a year, and then just live a standard life, like get a house, get wife, get kids, all that shit. That was my big plan. And I was lying to myself because I was allowing external factors to dictate that. I didn't take ownership of that until I did. And I fucking flipped at 180 and I was like, nah, I don't want this shit. Because it wasn't making me happy. Like if you truly think about it, like that stuff didn't make me happy. But I had like all this pressure from my parents, and like coming from an Indian background, like that is the standard. It's a cookie cutter approach to life, man.
There's a lot of, I might just, if that's all right, I just want to read out the specific things that we
Yeah.
actually have there.
Yeah.
Because we've touched on a few of them.
I feel like
A lot
we're
of them
bouncing
in-
a little bit.
Oh, we've touched on a lot of them, but I don't want them for the people to be read between the lines and see the principle.
Yeah.
We're like, here's the things.
Yeah.
So we've written up here a few of the ways to identify victim mentality, right? Always blaming others. They use that basic line that we've all heard 100 times. They say, oh, this is not my fault. That's stupid shit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Little elbow blows. All right? Victims take things personally and say, what did I do to deserve this?
Yeah.
Right?
Everybody's saying that right now. Everyone's saying it.
Jock's face is just like fucking disgusted.
This is so relevant to COVID.
Oh
Right.
man.
I get it, man. COVID sucks. There's a lot of problems going on. But now, for the first time in a lot of people's lives, you have more time than ever before.
Yeah.
Do some shit. Just do it. Do it. Oh, it frustrates me because I know what's going to happen when this thing eventually, whatever, we decide it's the flu and we're going to go on and live with it anyway, right? Or yeah, we go back to some form of normality. People are going to go straight back into that victim mentality, like, oh, I don't have time anymore, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
You've just had 2 years, man. What the fuck? Come
No,
on.
but that's the thing, like we were talking about with the knowledge stuff, right? Like if you have the knowledge and you've got time now, you can execute on that because you've got the time.
Mm.
Like for us, like our situation, we fucking love COVID because it made us like a lot better.
We had to grow.
Yeah. Like we grew a lot. Our finances got better too.
Yeah.
Like it's just been good for us. Like we're not complaining, but a lot of people are complaining because they don't have the knowledge. They don't have the foundation. Yeah.
One of the things that started our journey or started us going really serious is we had a time-based opportunity in crypto, right?
Yeah.
We had to work our asses off, right? People out there, I'm telling you right now, this COVID is a time-based opportunity. You have a certain period right here. It's going to end where you have to go back to your normal stuff. You have a time-based opportunity to go hard as fuck and learn as much as possible. Change your damn life.
Yeah, take ownership of the time you have now because it's literally like free time. It's like world just froze in time.
Exactly. Dude, this has never happened before.
Yeah.
Dude, I know people my age that like this lockdown is actually kind of beneficial because like you don't have to go out with your friends. You can
You
use
save
that time
money.
to save money. You can use that time to save money. You if you're going to work still, you can use that time to save money.
Especially in
But
Australia.
then people are still spending that money on like clothing and fucking like dumb shit
You're spending your stimulus check on money on
on clothing.
clothing.
Stimulus check. So American, man.
What's it called here?
Steamy.
Job seeker.
Job seeker.
Job seeker.
Oh,
Settling.
Dude, all we listen
Doc's
to
actually
is-
American. He's an illegal alien here. Fucking
Doc just consumes that much American
show me your
content.
papers, Doc.
Dude, when was the last time you listened to something Australian?
Yeah, true. There's no good Australian content.
Yeah. All right. The other ones here, we've got making excuses that we spoke about, feeling sorry for themselves. People usually avoid taking risks in life and make decisions based on fear.
I got something to say about that one.
Fantastic. Get into
Right.
it.
So, and I think G can relate to this too, but coming from an immigrant family, they approach every decision they make with fear, which is ironic because you literally left your home and came to a different country, which is far more riskier than like investing or something, right? So like Like I wouldn't change my childhood at all. Like it was perfect. No, it wasn't perfect as in like it was perfect for how I am now. Right? But like my family has terrible investing decisions because they approach it with fear and risk, and that rubbed off on me at an early age of not taking risks and acting like a victim, or like, oh, the world is a bad place and I can't change. And like that's a big problem in India because it's based on a caste system. So I was recently watching this movie called Gully Boy, which is a Bollywood movie, and a gully means street. So it basically means street boy. And it's about this kid who grew up in the slums in India that wants to be a rapper, right? And he actually has a gift for it. But he comes from a very low caste society, like servant class. And his dad does not like taking risks. And for generations, like they've always been servants. So they want to keep that status quo. And he always influences his son. What the fuck are you doing? Why are you making these YouTube videos? Why are you trying to rap and put it on YouTube? It's making us look bad, right? So then there's a really good quote in that movie where the dad was like, shape your dreams around your reality. And then the kid was like, I would rather shape my reality around my dreams.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It needs to be written on the fridge.
Yeah.
Oof.
And I was just like, fuck. I relate to that shit.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That's some good shit. That was a good movie.
Yeah. That is a good
Oh,
movie.
you've seen it as well?
Yeah. It's a fucking good movie.
It's a good movie.
I have to watch this.
When did it come out?
It's been a couple
Like
years.
recent.
Couple
It's
years.
Somewhat recent. But like coming back to like risks and shit, like I was for the longest time just trying to get my parents invested. Like they've done well for themselves. They're really good savers, own land, their own assets, but they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Like they're in their 50s, but they're not millionaires. Like you should be a millionaire by the age of 50, or you've done something wrong.
Yeah, multi.
Right?
Yeah.
And they approach every decision with fear, and they act like victims instead of taking that ownership and leveling up themselves.
Yeah, where does this fear actually come from? It's actually a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Because we're saying people avoid taking risks. They don't understand what risk actually is and how to go about risk. When we take risk, it's actually not a risk. Why? Because it's about position sizing. We would only allocate, like, on average, 1% of our capital to a certain opportunity. So now, if that opportunity doesn't go in our favor, we don't lose our money. It's only 1%. You know, so we never bet the whole farm. Everybody else is like, oh man, I can't take this risk because I'm going to lose everything. Yeah, that's actually logical. You shouldn't bet the whole farm. That's actually a tremendous risk, you know, that can lead to financial ruin. Never ever do that. So like, if you're scared of taking risks, have you actually went on Google and typed in, how can I take risks? Like, how do I go about taking risk? And studied risk itself.
Yeah.
You know, and then you'll start following people like Nassim Taleb. He talks about risk, and you find all these traders and all this stuff. And they teach you actually how to take risk properly.
Nice.
you know?
The other thing is like my parents, they really believe in the traditional schooling system. So like anything they would read online, they wouldn't take it as seriously as like you taking a course and
Yeah.
getting a certificate. They see that as more valuable than actually studying online themselves.
Mm.
So that was like another reason why they just lack so much knowledge.
And I think well, in my Indian community, like I think people were more like just trusting of what other people around them say.
Mm.
Like, is the other person around you like a millionaire? No.
It's
Then why are you
D-class.
listening to them?
Like even like my parents were trying to give me, I love my parents, but they were trying to give me financial advice, right? I'm like, but you're not a millionaire. Like, you haven't done it yourself. How are you giving me financial advice on how to
Yeah.
get rich?
That principle there was actually one of the biggest things that drew me to someone different.
Yeah.
Someone specifically like Dylan. It's like the lifestyle my family had was not the lifestyle I wanted for me.
Mm.
I wanted something much larger, much bigger. I wanted
Yeah.
as many good things for myself as possible. It's purely selfish. I get it, but guess what? It's what I wanted.
Mm.
Right? I want all the good things. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
So would you guys
But-
say like on that point, like would you guys say to have extreme ownership of your personal life, you obviously have to be selfish in the beginning?
Define selfish.
Like focus very heavily on your problems.
I wouldn't call that selfish though. I would just call that taking care of yourself. I wouldn't
Yeah.
call that selfish.
No, because Jordan Peterson talks about that actually. Like you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, then the people around you will suffer.
If you think about it, it's not being selfish because you're taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
making other people around you better.
Exactly what I
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
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 And like, what is our
Lost after the point.
what's our actual journey with Hardcore Head Start? Our actual journey and our actual goal is an order to it. It's, hey, we want to focus predominantly on money, a little bit of knowledge. When we flip it, we go all in on knowledge, a little bit of money because money's sorted. Then we have everything that we wanted as a child. You know, we can have it all now, or as an adult, anything that we dreamed of, we got it because it's actually really easy. Anything that you want to buy, it doesn't actually cost that much money. You know, like the most expensive stuff you can think about is actually really cheap. If you have $1 million of assets generating $200,000 per year for you every year,
You're
5
set for
years of
life.
that,
Yeah.
like you've bought everything you ever need. Like, how much does a computer cost? You can get a $20,000 rig. 20 grand is actually really small.
And like all these people right now are going to like, oh, what about a yacht and shit like that?
You're not going to use the
Oh,
yacht.
first of all,
Yeah, you're not going to use it.
Rent it for a week.
Yeah.
The only reason you see Jeff Bezos buying a yacht and shit like that is probably tax deductions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because this dude simply
It's a
has
businessman.
no other fucking thing to do with
I
it.
mean,
He's done.
Dude's worth like 200 billion, right? And he just
Yeah.
like, he can easily live on 1 billion a year.
Yeah.
And that's such a small portion of his total net worth
Yeah.
that he can afford that. Like you got to
Yeah.
put yourself in that same situation. Like put your finances in proportion. Can you afford a yacht?
When
Like
it
one
gets
thing-
boring, I guarantee you will get bored of that immediately.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You'll
And-
get over it.
And the other thing is, it's his assets are probably paying it off. His business is paying it off.
Yeah, it's-
And then, like
stuff
Doc
like
said, it's a tax deduction as well. So
Probably somehow. It's all people always talk about like, oh, I want all those massive things. You don't understand.
But then they'll argue to themselves saying, but I like my job. I want the $1 billion yacht, but I love my job. I'm not quitting
you
my
don't
job.
like
I'm
your
not,
job.
I don't want to change.
You
So
gotta
what do
take
you want?
ownership of that, boys.
What do you want?
That's what people are so confused. Like you must, if you've had that conversation, if you think in your head right now, oh, I want $1 billion yacht, I want to live on a yacht, and you're also terrified to leave your job, it's the most conflicting stories.
But you know why fucking Jeff Bezos like, deserves that yacht? Think about like all the people that he's made rich, right? And like it was literally the advent of the internet. It started to take off. Decides to quit his 6-figure job on Wall Street. Convinces his parents to put $250K into Amazon as seed money, right? Which is a huge risk because you don't know if it's going to work or not. And then went through the 2000 internet bubble where all stocks like on the internet lost like 90% of their value, and he kept going.
Convinces his partner as well to move to a different state.
Yeah,
For a lot of people in their life right now, that's a terrifying decision to move where an opportunity is.
And why? Explain to the audience, why is it a noble pursuit to make someone rich?
because you're saving them time. You're giving them time. You're giving them, like, let's say they have some sort of like health condition. You're giving them an opportunity to, fix themselves, make themselves healthier,
Spend time with their loved ones.
spend time with their loved ones,
Focus
spend
on their
time
problems.
doing whatever you want that makes you happy. It's like a lot of things. Like people demonize money, but money used for good is the way to live.
I would argue find a lot of meaning as well. You can use that money to help a lot of people in this world.
That's our goal, right? That's our long-term goal.
Right
$1 billion,
now, it's a
boys.
$1 billion.
Which
That's our goal.
seems smaller and smaller over time, adjusted for inflation, of course.
Because when you have when you have an abundance of money and you have an abundance of time, then you realize it's not all about the money. And it's not all about yourself.
Yeah.
And then you realize how fortunate you are. And then you realize how much you need to help everybody around you. And that's exactly what we're trying to do.
And that's where our mindset is literally at right now. Like, that's how we think. Oh, yeah, but the money, you don't have that much money. Yeah, I guarantee. Listen, it's going to catch up.
You're 24, dude.
It will get there. I mean,
You're
like,
24.
all of us, it will get there. The money, like, we're on a marathon, like we
Yeah.
talk about. The money will get there. It's no longer a concern.
Yeah.
It's math.
Have you
Right.
heard of Patil?
So the last one there is they got a few more. We got lack of self-awareness.
I think that's what we were talking about. Like,
Yeah.
like when you have that time, you can become more self-aware because now you're thinking more.
Yes.
I think that's what people lack. People lack self-reflection because they're always on the go. So
We're trying
once
to
you
move too
free up
quickly.
time, you get self-reflection, and then you realize, oh shit, I'm actually a shitty person.
The three of us will know this, and gee, I know this is coming for you, bro. At the minute you leave your job, you get all that time back. You start doing the real self-awareness stuff. Oh shit!
But one thing happens. Your jaw just drops.
Do it.
And
Do it.
Wait, all on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Your jaw just drops, man. You realize you got so many problems.
Oh,
That you've never seen before. You didn't think they were a problem. You're like, boys, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm perfect. You leave your job, you got all this time. You're like,
Dude, you look like the guy from Frankston Station. Every guy from Frankston Station.
just every white guy.
jaws
from
are
Frank
dropping.
Station. Yeah, they're actually,
The complete opposite of what we're doing.
yeah, their jaw's not dropping. Like, their jaw's just dropping because they're.
Yeah.
Because it's something else.
Anyway, the lack of self-awareness is always also when we're talking about like, oh my god, I want a yacht, but I don't want to leave my job.
And do you actually want a yacht? They're not even that cool, man.
I want a
Go
Ferrari.
and rent a yacht for 1 hour.
Oh, it's like when they want a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Dude, don't spend 300 grand on a Lamborghini. Just like try it out for a day.
Dude.
See if you like
You
it.
get a bad back, man.
Yeah.
If you're 6 foot, like you can't fit in them.
Dude, even the old guy I had, the one with the real loader, the Nissan.
Uh,
Dude, for me, getting in and out of that car was some bullshit, man. I don't need some shit that's on the ground.
Yeah.
But that's like extreme examples. People will go to like fucking Cranbourne and be like, oh, I want the nicest house in Cranbourne. Why the fuck do you want the nicest house in Cranbourne, bro? Go to a better suburb.
No, but that's the thing. Like, we can't just make fun of them for that. We've got to actually open up their mindset and be like, this is just a small pocket of the world. Think a
Yeah.
little bit bigger. You know, like this is what you can achieve. And a lot of people don't believe they can achieve it. That's the problem.
lack of knowledge again.
And that comes to lack of knowledge and also victim mentality. So if you do extreme ownership, why not? Why can't you own it? Why can't you have it?
This is actually, I didn't see it until just now. This is the one I used to do all the time. I remember this shit.
They need to
Fuck,
justify.
They need
what
to
they're saying.
justify what they're saying. I'll say some bullshit and then try and like justify it with the most ridiculous example of all time.
And what would be an example of
Good
that?
luck. Not gonna be able to tell you. But I know for a fact that I used to like with a lot of it was ego. I was like try to prove a point by justifying it with something silly. And then it just simply doesn't make sense because I'm lying to myself, which is not self-aware. I'm not taking ownership of the fact that I don't actually know the information, know the knowledge. So, yeah, that's, I guess, kind of like a portion of the podcast. Obviously, we want to identify how to find victim mentality. I guess that's kind of where we're at with that.
So if we were to summarize it, boys, like identify victim mentality, identify extreme ownership, like what would you guys say? Like to summarize an hour's worth of talking.
To be honest, I think Jordan Peterson helped me a lot with that. So I used to watch a ton of his videos, read his book. Something he would say is like stand up straight and like face the dragon, face your problems. Like whatever the issue you have in your life, face it. Obviously ask yourself, how can I fix it? And yeah, take extreme ownership. Do you guys have anything else?
Yeah, I mean, just to summarize, identifying specifically, we're going to get into the problems or how to actually go about fixing that. Just to summarize, I guess, be as self-aware as possible, question everything. If something bad happens in your life, realize the fact that you need to take responsibility for it to get through that bad thing.
And I reckon, just be aware of your environment and your upbringing. Like Sameer was saying before, your parents probably have victim mentality, or they definitely don't have. Odds are, unless your dad's Jocko. Your dad's probably not extreme. He doesn't follow extreme ownership. He might follow a bit of ownership, if he's a real man. But, You just got to be aware of your upbringing. We have a bias towards saying our dad's the best, especially as a man. That's what we always say.
Nice, boys. So leading on to that, I guess we can talk about the next part, which is tools to overcome those problems and like how to handle those problems and to take ownership. Like, how would you actually implement extreme ownership? So in Jocko's book, he actually has this really nice procedure. It's a 3-step procedure. First step is to identify the problem without any bias, right? Second step is to check your ego and to own it. Third step is to prioritize and implement a solution and execute it. So you do those things of every single problem that you come across. That's extreme ownership. That's how you implement it. So like you could actually literally just write it down. Like if you have a problem, what is the problem? Literally like be very formal about it. So you take your emotions out of it and then you just break it down. Try to find a solution.
Yeah.
Check your ego. I think ego is the thing that we got to talk about because that's a big one.
You can get into ego now then if you want.
Because like we talked about identifying the problem, like with our own lives and shit, right? Ego is a big fucker. That ego is a good thing and a bad thing, because good thing, like it'll push you to achieve excellence. Yeah. Bad thing is that, you can bring your own agenda to like a certain thing and
I mean, I guess
mess up a whole culture.
I guess like one way of putting it is you got to drop your ego, your current ego, and then learn how to form like this good ego, like this ego that drives you. Would you say that or?
Yeah. Like I definitely agree. Like there's good and bad ego. The good ego, I think we all have good ego, but the bad ego, like we've left that shit at the door.
The good ego is like the chip on your shoulder.
Yeah,
it's that thing that drives you.
Yeah,
like I want to do this better. I want to be.
It's
better.
like the whole goal of Hardcore Headstart, which is to spread the mission across the world. Like it's a movement, right? Which is egotistic if you think about it, and to also donate $1 billion, which is also egotistic.
Pushes me in physical challenges. I'll do that.
Huh?
It pushes me in physical challenges. It's like, I don't know if it's healthy, but for me, it's like, dude, I'm the best. I am unfathomably the best. Come fight against me. Come beat me. Good luck. Am I the best in the world? Well, it's probably not, yeah? But guess what? When I'm in that moment right there, you cannot convince me otherwise. We say this in fighters all the time.
Yeah.
The fight, you try and tell a fighter he's not the best. It's not going to happen. But, ego, if you drop your ego, it allows you to objectively look at a situation, look at a problem, understand what's actually happening, and find the solve that Jocko's talking about in his third principle. If you don't drop that ego, you're just, literally going to have that victim mentality and place the blame on someone else.
To protect your ego.
Exactly.
Is there any exercises you guys do to identify bad ego?
I think if you're highly disagreeable, it can be a sign of ego. Because like sometimes you can I see it with dumb people. You literally go to them and you like tell a fact. Dude, the fact's a complete lie. And they're like, oh my lord, oh no, this other thing. I'm like, dude, you're fighting based on a lie that doesn't even exist, boys. And you think you're an expert on this topic. How many hours have you studied this topic? Like, then that's a sign of ego.
And their bias gets them. And then they just double down.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about it. Before, like you were trying to justify a point.
Yeah.
Like we don't really talk about topics that we don't understand, or we'll tell, hey, we're like, this is complete, bullshit in some regards. Like whatever's coming out of our mouths right now, we don't actually know, but we only talk about stuff that we've studied and we've really put the work in, and we're confident that there's a lot of value in what we're saying.
Yeah, you'll notice in our terminology as well, is like if I say think, or if I say I think or I believe this or something like that, it's I'm still thinking through the idea. I'm still understanding, I'm still studying. When I say something, it's not to be questioned. It's literally not a question. I'm telling you. Like, here's the answer. I've studied this. I know this. This is a part of me. I'm now literally gifting it to you. This is advice. This is a consult. This is me helping you. This is because I care. This is because I love you.
I think we've done a good job of building that culture of like making sure what we say is like what is right. But then there's also the other ego where there's people that are like saying shit that, you know, that's wrong, but they try to make it seem like it's right. I think pretty much you said that.
They start using like big words and English and all this stuff, and it's just like, man, you're just blabbing bullshit.
Yeah,
It
and
has
I'm
nothing
sure
to
I'm
do
sure
with
you
the
get that
actual
in a lot of workplaces as well.
Mm.
I'm sure you get a ton of those people.
Dude,
like,
we live in the finance world.
yeah.
How many times do you hear some sentence that you're like, what? What?
Quantitative easing.
What? Just speak English, man. So you're telling me it's going up? Yeah. Fuck, just say it's going up. Like we use some bullshit.
Yeah, boys.
Anyway, let's.
So what do we need to do? We need to switch our language, right? You want to talk about that one, Doc?
Yeah, I think the first one we were speaking about was ego, right? So once we get through ego, the third step in Jocko's is to actually
Prioritize, figure out a solution, and implement that shit.
yeah, right. So here's a kind of some of the solutions that'll help you get to removing that victim mentality and taking extreme ownership on we'll switch language from how could this happen to me versus what did I do for this to happen.
Like speaking, like going back to like my parents when, you know, we were saying they're very risk averse people. They see the world through the lens of fear instead of opportunity, right? We've got this amazing investment vehicle in eToro where we're generating 20 to 30% returns each year. And I was just thinking, like, I got this knowledge now. I want to give it to my parents because I owe them for everything they've given me. I owe them this, right? But then I still didn't have my ego in check when I went to consult with them, because to them, they hate stocks, like just don't understand stocks. They see it as a very up and down thing, and it's not stable. So me trying to explain to them took me months, and that's my fault because it took them months to understand it. And months when you're investing is a big deal. It's a time-based opportunity, right? So I've actually lost the months of compounding because it was my thing, right? That was my fault. I didn't look internally and be like, what did I do for them to not understand it?
Yeah, that's right.
Like I had so many situations where like we would literally just be talking over each other and it would get heated. Like it didn't have to be that way. That was my fault. It wasn't their fault because I'm approaching them with new information. So switching up that, like I became aware of my ego. I was like, dude, this is my fault. Switch up my language from like, how could they not see what I'm trying to tell them to what did I do for them to not see what I was trying to say? 100%. And then once I switch that, now they're invested. Now they're invested big. They're invested more, like half of their total net worth into our portfolio. So,
and again, people think by like using this different terminology, sometimes they attach it to like really, really big problems, and they think because you don't allow yourself to be the victim, it's insensitive or something. Like it's actually the opposite of that entirely. By me not playing the victim in literally anything, even if it's extreme and honestly unreasonable, it allows me to put myself strongly mindset-wise in a position where I can solve that problem. Right? And if I continue to take those small steps like terminology, changing the way I speak, which then eventually changes the way I think, I'm in a position to be able to deal with that problem by default, automatically, subconsciously.
Yeah, that was my example.
It's super important. Like that's the lives that we live. We're leaders. If we want to change the whole world, we focus on ourselves first, like Jordan Peterson says. Focus on ourselves, then focus on our friends and family, our initial community, and then you scale out to the whole world.
Yeah, that's right. I'm like this with my partner. When Paul Shazer comes in, it's like there's a problem at work that had nothing to do with her, and she wasn't even there, but she's the manager. And she goes, oh, this happened. I don't say, oh, that sucks, etc., etc. And it seems insensitive to, a sillier person. But in my opinion, me helping her solve the problem, dealing with it, that's the most sensitive thing I could do. Because then it reduces stress, reduces problems, makes her take ownership of the situation.
Yeah.
I see these Gary Vee videos all the time where this guy's like saying to Gary Vee, like, oh, my staff member's just been playing up and all of that. Like, whose fault is it and what should I do? And then Gary Vee's just like, well, whose fault is it? Who hired that person? He's just like, oh, me. And then it's just like, dude, it's your fault.
Whose fault is it?
You! Talk yourself through it. Who hired him? It's so simple, right?
So who's in control of training? Me.
Dude, poor fucker. He has no self-awareness. And he starts a company.
Who's head of recruitment? Me.
Me.
So yeah, it's the same with the manager thing. Like, it's your title. Your title is you fix every problem that happens in the store. That's
Yeah.
literally your one title.
Yeah.
Like, your one description of your title.
This guy has a problem. Whose fault is it? Whose problem is it to fix?
Me?
What do you get paid for? What? Anyway.
Oh, funny story. Remember the fucking the barbecue place down the road?
Oh,
Dude, that's the
You gotta
most.
tell
I think
that
that's a
shit. You
funny
gotta tell
story.
that
You're gonna tell that.
That's a good story.
Far out.
That's
All
a
right.
hard one to tell, though. It's a long one.
Try
Alright.
to condense it in 5 minutes.
I'll
man.
try.
Come on.
I'll try and put a less,
Yeah.
emotion into it. All right. So, first of all, there's a barbecue place that opened up, which is essentially American barbecue that opened up in a Vietnamese town. So genius right there. Second of all, that's a mean. I guarantee it might work. Anyway, moving on. So I ordered from Uber Eats this barbecue dish, whatever it was, and after an hour of waiting, these two boys ordered, by the way, and they'd
Yeah.
already gotten their food and started
We
eating.
got our food, ate, finished.
Finished eating an hour late. I'm pretty
Finished as well.
I'm pretty chill. Like, I'm pretty calm. I worked in hospitality, right? So we get it. When delays happen, we get it. So I was pretty chill. An hour goes by, so I start looking up Uber call center and be like, dude, my food hasn't come. I'm like 200th in the line though, so I'm like, oof, I'm not doing that. So I call them up. I'm like, hey, you guys, I haven't got my food yet. It's been like an hour. What's going on? He goes, oh my God, no way. What's going on? Starts blaming the Uber driver because they do double dips and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay, radio. Biggest lie I've ever heard. So he goes, oh, it'll be right there. I'm like, all right, no problem. Anyway, so literally another, 45 minutes go by, I think.
Yeah.
I think I called the guy up again.
Yeah, and the app is saying preparing food.
Yeah, it's still saying preparing food. I call the guy up again. I goes, oh, it hasn't come. He goes, oh, what's going on? Oh, no, I can see it's in the hot box. Like, hot box is the most revolutionary piece of technology ever. It's a food warmer, bro. And so after he realizes it's in the food warmer, he goes, oh, I'll send it right now. I'm like, all right, sweet, food's coming. Another half an hour later, the thing gets cancelled. I'm like, what the
Hold.
Wait, what? What just happened? So, being us, this was not in a lockdown, so it was all good. But we decided that we're going to drive down there.
Do a stakeout.
Yeah. And find my food, man.
Check the hot box.
Check the hot box. So we go down there, and I'm waiting. First off, we get there. There's no lights on at all, which
There's no power.
that stresses me. That stresses me out.
Why is it no powder?
I'll get there. So we I line up. I'm like, I'll ask him, et cetera, et cetera. The lights turn back on randomly, which is weird. It's just stressing me out. And then I hear this guy ask for chips, and he's been waiting 25 minutes for chips. And I went, don't think I'm getting food tonight, boys. And then everything went dark again, all the power. So they're running a one extension lead to a caravan. Like, come on, man.
Caravan.
Dude, I'm not an engineer, but that's not going to work. All right. So all of us decide to leave.
The funny thing is what happened after.
Oh yeah, first of all, like, I'll do that really quickly because the conversation's the funny bit and the point.
Yeah.
But I've been waiting 2 hours for food here. we all agree we're going to go to a Porto, which is across the road. G just drives straight past it. My man, I'm hungry. Come on.
That has nothing to do with extreme ownership.
You gotta take ownership of that, G.
I just thought the story was funny because
Well, you just roasted
that
yourself.
guy.
So, previous to that, I called this guy back again. But so he's the owner or manager, and I'm asking him, oh, my food got cancelled. What's going on, et cetera, et cetera. Is there any chance, literally what's going on? And the guy goes to me, man, you didn't get your food. What do you think's happened?
How are you
What-
supposed to know?
Ask Doc.
What do I think has happened?
Dude, the manager of the
So,
store. Ask
he-
Doc.
so
Like
he-
a customer.
So obviously right there from the conversation we've just previously been having, that's real lack of ownership.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure, man.
That's real lack of ownership. If you're
what,
the
do you,
manager,
what do you think happened? What could we
Yeah.
have done better?
Yeah. That's not customer feedback because I wasn't even a customer yet.
Yeah.
I didn't get my food. But I simply told him, because he didn't know we'd been there at that stage. So I simply told him, I don't know, man, it must have been a power issue.
So we're literally watching it.
Dude, the most random thing ever. Like, how would he possibly like, how would I possibly know that?
I guarantee you, like when you heard that, it was like,
Dude,
He was
the
probably
dude's
looking
on the
around.
phone and he goes, "Oh, I'm on the way there now." I'm like, "How you know it was in a food warmer from an hour and a half ago then?" But
I like that story because it relates to what we're saying.
yeah,
Like,
people are
be
trying. I
self-aware.
get it. It's hard things, but
come on,
the
man.
point
like,
there is like,
how do you open a food truck and have one extension cord? Like, come on.
but like he easily at that point should have said when I'm an hour in, going, "I'm not like something's happening right now. We either don't have power. It's really bad. I would
Just own up
suggest
to
you cancel your order, try and reorder, or call at the store, or if you can go down there, something like this. Let me know that it's not possible." And then when we have that conversation of what's happening right now, don't ask your customer what the solution is because I'm the customer.
He literally asked you to like, what can I do to run my business better?
Yeah, so I own that now.
Yeah.
And no, so but it's those kind of things, and that's like we try to use a funny example,
Yeah.
but that's an example of like you should have taken ownership of that situation as a manager, and we're talking from a value point of view of provide value to your customer. So
Fuck, that was funny, boys.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like you said, it shows that lack of self-awareness, especially when running a store. Like you gotta have self-awareness. You gotta know what you're doing. You gotta have the knowledge, and then on top of that, you gotta have the extreme ownership. Because if anything goes wrong, it's on you, man. You're the manager.
How
Anything
easy
goes wrong.
would it be? Like, how easy would it be just to like say, "Hey, sorry, Daniel, like I messed up tonight. We just opened up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got to cancel the order, but here's a voucher of $50 or something. Come back again."
You
Perfect.
would have like gone back. You would have probably recommended it to other people, and you're like, these guys are nice people. Let's help them out.
this is something we used to do all the time. You provide that voucher, and if you're not in the hospitality business, what that does is gets them to come back, spend that voucher, and they every time spend more money.
Yeah.
So you win from every point of view. You don't
Yeah.
lose your reputation. Like there's not, and now because the four of us were there, none of us are going to go eat there, right? So he's just lost 4 customers,
Yeah.
which is that sucks for him, but it's directly
Hopefully he
resulted
learns
with the
from
way
that.
he's thinking.
Yeah, hopefully he learns from that.
Absolutely, and it's like you could tell. I don't want to bang him out because you can tell he's very inexperienced just by the way he handles that conversation. And maybe that's us being in the hospitality business for so long. Like we understand what it is and what it takes. So it's like it sucks, but take ownership of that.
The
There's
next
a-
point. What are we talking about, boys?
This is the good one, right? Of like the only thing sympathy gets you is a participation award. Who said that one the other day?
Dana.
Was it Dana?
Was Dana?
No,
Yeah.
Dana, yeah.
Yeah. This is
That's
I
a nice
mean,
one. Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on, guys. When we're living in the world right now where participation awards are celebrated. Oh my days, man.
At least you did it. At least you ran.
Yeah. Feeling sympathy for yourself or feeling sorry for yourself, one of the identifiers of victim mentality we were talking about before. It's not going to get you anywhere. It gets you the basic level, which is the world around you. It's been I guess, kind of topic of last podcast with Johnny Boy, and raise your standards. Your standards need to be higher. Don't feel sorry for yourself, and don't think it's okay because the environment around you thinks it's okay. Raise your standards. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Take ownership of the situation, and be better.
Yeah, and in saying that as well, like if you do something small, like that makes you a better person, like celebrate that yourself, but don't go around to people and be like, oh, I'm the best because I ran like 2Ks. I'm the fucking best.
That's the ego. Right?
That's the ego, right? Like celebrate it yourself. Like be like, oh man, I did 2Ks. That's awesome. How much can I do next time?
Yeah.
Maybe 3K, or like like celebrate the small wins yourself.
Is there any other points that we want to touch on, or we just go straight to the recommendations for the books and the heroes?
I've got one.
Got one?
That's all right. We've talked about everyone faces challenges, and life is about suffering, etc., etc. But there's a quote that Dana won't let us. He'll really want us to make sure we put out there, and it's beautiful. It's, you can't control the world around you. You can only control your response to the world.
It's a good one.
Right, and in order for them not to really read between the lines, even though it's obvious, things are going to happen to you. Life is about suffering. It's inevitable. It sucks, but it's the way you react to what happens to you that determines the person you are and the life that you get to live in this world.
Like, I think going back to the sympathy thing, a personal experience for me was like when I was probably the heaviest I've ever been in my life. I think I got up to like 105 kilos at one point. It was just miserable. I was just seeking sympathy of like, oh, it's okay to eat bad food. It's okay. You'll burn it off. It's okay. And like that just snowballed into like this tugboat. Like literally became a tugboat. Like tugboat. Yeah. That wasn't a good period of my life. And like for me, a weakness of mine is sugar. I love chocolate. I love donuts. I love all that shit. And I was just like, I had no control. I was being a victim. Oh, my genetics are shit. I was being like that,
You're the best genetics.
But then I fucking put in the work. I realized, dude, I'm going down a slippery slope here. I got to fucking get back to normal, cut out sugar and all that shit for like a year. Didn't eat any fucking chocolate for a year. And it took me that long to burn off the fat, man. I just it's like losing a year.
Yeah.
Because of shitty decisions I made. And I was looking for sympathy and excuses.
Yeah, that's an important point. Like when you're looking for that sympathy, you're looking like for it from the environment around you. And if you're in that kind of unfortunate, shitty environment, you're going to get that sympathy, which is the worst thing for you.
Yeah, it's like hearing what you want to hear.
Yeah.
When that's not the thing that you should be hearing.
Dude, your mental diet is so important. You need to be consuming things that, especially if you're in that kind of sympathetic point of view, that are different to that. Yeah.
And like during that time, for me, a really good quote that I like really kept in the back of my head was, if you want to do something right, do it yourself. So if I want to do this shit right for myself, my health, I got to do it myself. Like I just kept that going in the back of my head and I lost all the weight. Yeah.
That's good. That's a good one.
All right, shall we get to the
so the recommendations, boys. Should we start with the fat-free, salt-reduced margarine? Like when I first read that, I'm like, who the hell is that?
Salt-reduced margarine.
So that is our good friend Butters, aka Johnny Butler.
Butler.
So if you haven't watched the previous podcast that we had with him, highly recommend you go check that out.
Dude, I should not be doing notes.
I know, man. Like, what the hell is that?
Fat-free, salt-reduced.
We called Johnny Butler Butters fat-free, salt-reduced margarine. What is wrong with us?
Shit.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so other than Johnny Boy, we have obviously Jocko Willink. You'll see like the clips of him in the video. And David Goggins, man.
Stay hard.
Stay hard.
Yep.
And the book obviously is 12 Rules for Life, which is the
Jordan
Peterson book.
Yep.
Also recommend go checking out Extreme Ownership, which is Jocko Willink's book. Yeah. Anything else, boys?
What's that quote? I can't read it from here, but it's, if you can understand extreme ownership, then, oh, here we go. So once you can understand extreme ownership, then you'll understand that your financial situation, your happiness, your health and fitness of your body, the quality of your relationships is always your responsibility to improve. So you'll understand that everything that happens to you is up to you.
I think on that note, back her up.
Back it up.
Let's
Back
go,
her
Tom
up.
Boats. Back it up.
Back her up.
Back it up.
Back her up.
Thank you for listening.